Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I'm your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names and kicking candy ass. I'm in the color here with you on Grande's Graveyard. And I know, weird, right? Saturday, 8:45, we're live. No warning, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're just kind of going here tonight on Grande's Graveyard. And to be honest, there's just a lot going on in life right now, so I figured this would be a nice way to kind of blow some steam off and, kind of use my creative side and discuss one of my all-time favorite filmmakers, and Mr. George A. Romero. And, I had done one of these on Dario Argento about a year ago. I had done a filmography ranked list of all of Argento's films, which you can find on the channel here. But I have not done one on Romero, and Romero is probably right up there with Argento. I mean, it's probably Kubrick, Argento, Romero for me. That's like my three favorite filmmakers of all time. And I haven't one done on Kubrick yet. So I figured tonight we kind of check off the bucket list and do one on the legendary late great George A. Romero. So yeah, we got all of his films down here on the bottom here. We've got the tier up here. We've got S all the way to F. And of course, the only downdraw of this is going to be I'm not going to be able to interact with the chat much if there is one. Right now, it doesn't look like there's anybody in the house, and understandably so, because it's Saturday night, people have lives, and obviously this was like a 20-minute impromptu before stream. So, I mean, I can understand if we do not have a packed house of people hanging from the rafters tonight. I completely understand. But, okay, so we're going to get right underway with George Romero's first film from the year 1968. This is Night of the Living Dead. Yes, Night of the Living Dead from 1968. Of course, the film that pioneered and started and created an entire new genre, which is now known as the zombie genre of films. And man, I am just a diehard zombie film fan. And it all started with this movie from 1968, Romero's Night of the Living Dead. And to me, this is just one of the all-time great masterpiece horror films. Of course, it's notorious now for being public domain, and everybody and their mother has made their interpretation or, adaptation of Night of the Living Dead, the story. There's been so many remakes and rip-offs and these things, but I don't think any of them hold a candle to the greatness of Romero's film from 68. Basically tells the story of these people that hold up in a farmhouse, and little do they know that the living dead is outside. These ghoulish, evil zombies are on the outside trying to get in. And this movie has a great psychology when discussing the horrors of lack of communication and the horrors of us versus us, because the zombies in these films, they are the antagonist. However, our biggest antagonist, our biggest enemy is in fact ourselves. And that's the kind of main motif of a lot of Romero's films, is us against us. And if we cannot get along in here, we will be consumed, conquered, victimized, and eaten by the zombies out there. And that's the big message and theme that this movie is sort of telling. And of course, you have Dwayne Jones as Ben as the lead. He does a great job. A lot of the other actors really weren't actors. They were more so Romero's friends, and they would shoot this movie only on the weekends. This was a really guerrilla style film when it came to filmmaking. I mean, they would shoot this Saturdays and Sundays on the weekends and then go all back to their everyday day jobs during the week. So this movie was shot over a year, from 1967 all the way to 1968. And this thing was released and became a huge midnight movie. I mean, it's one of the more scary films out there. And I would say it's Romero's scariest horror film that he ever made. It's really just a fantastic little film and one of the great all-time horror movie debuts. I remember, I would like to touch on a couple of key scenes. Of course, the main one being the whole idea and psychology of the graveyard scene right at the beginning. And they're coming to get you, Barbara. Just how creepy this film opens, that creepy, somber score. And of course, Rush Striner teasing Judith O'Dea's character. They're coming for you, Barbara. Look, there comes one of them now. I'm getting out of here. Just very creepy, man. And I always really enjoy George A. Romero going for the creep factor, because it's not something he did too much in his career. And that's a big reason I love Night of the Living Dead. It's one of the few Romero films that is trying to scare you. And to me, it does that. I really love Night of the Living Dead. To me, it is an all-time classic, an easy S tier, and one of the great horror movie debuts of all time. It's an easy slam dunk S. It is responsible for creating and starting the entire zombie genre that would later go on to, of course, define horror. I mean, he created an entire subgenre based on this one movie, and it's absolutely incredible. It really is. I love Night of the Living Dead. To me, an easy S tier, slam dunk. I can flip back and forth with the chat. Granted, I don't have that screen up. Neon Black Reviews was in the house. What's going on, good brother Neil? To Ty Junebug Films. Hello, what's up, buddy? Yeah, no, impromptu stream tonight because we got a lot going on in my life, and I figured why the hell not kind of get some of my creative juices out there. I don't know how long or short this will be. I don't know if I want to go uber in depth on all of these films. I just sort of want to rank them. I don't like about George Romero is he pushes his agenda, but he's more subtle about it, and that's how you put an agenda into a story rather than your agenda first. Yeah, no, I don't mind Romero's commentary on stuff, and I don't know. It's just there's something about his style of filmmaking, the low budget sort of charm that a lot of his movies have, and the creativity and the stories and dialogue, characters. He was really good at drawing and writing characters. I think he did a really wonderful job throughout his career at making memorable characters and good dialogue and memorable stories. And that's why I'm a big fan of George. So I wanted to take this time tonight and kind of do a quick little ranking of all of his films. But his follow-up, of course, George Romero infamously did not want to be typecasted as the, of course, horror guy. So the next movie that he made in his filmography was not a horror movie. He wanted desperately to get out of it. Of course, he made this little film from the year 1971. This is There's Always Vanilla. Yes, They're Always Vanilla from 1971. This one, of course, stars Ray Lane and Judith Ridley, who was also in Night of the Living Dead. It's one of the two movies she ever did. Of course, this and Night of the Living Dead. And she plays this woman who she's kind of down on her luck. She is single, and she falls in love with this man played by Ray Lane. And it's basically the ups and downs of their relationships. And it's kind of a romantic drama movie. Like some people would say romantic comedy. It's not really funny. There's not a lot of moments where you laugh at the film. It's really kind of a drama. And I don't know, for me, this one always felt kind of flat. It has some interesting ideas when it comes to editing, because I think George Romero, above all else, above writing, above directing, he was a wonderful editor. I really think if he hadn't become a director, I think he would have been the most infamous editors of all time. And he uses a lot of interesting and unique editing shots in this film. And that's, I think, the standout of it. If you want to see film editing in like experimental form or unique form, watch this movie for that. However, otherwise, there's really not much to run home about here. It's kind of a flat love story. Ray Lane does the best he can. Judith Ridley is a beautiful woman. She kind of shines off the screen, just a beautiful presence and smile. To me, it's one of those ideas of an actor that stands out, an actress that just is so beautiful. She kind of can't help but stick out in your mind. But their chemistry, it's iffy. It's all right at best. And honestly, it kind of has a downbeat ending where they don't end up together. And I know that this movie had infamous production problems. Of course, the writer had left halfway through filmmaking, and George A. Romero wanted to finish writing the story himself. So he added to basically write the ending of this movie. And that's one of the biggest problems is the ending. It doesn't feel like a finished movie. It's kind of just, oh shit, we need to end this. Let's put something together. And they kind of rush the ending here. And I don't know. It's kind of a shame, because I think had it been more focused, who knows? Maybe this would have been a great all-time romantic drama film that made Romero touch all different kinds of genres. Unfortunately for him, it was not that. It was a huge flop. And I would have to say it's arguably his worst film. It's got to be up there with his worst movies, because it really lacks anything that you'd want in a Romero film. And I know that the genre has something to do with that, of course, being a romantic, dramatic film as opposed to a horror film. But to me, it is really a movie that you can largely skip in his filmography. It's not very important or memorable or anything. It's really kind of a big dud in his filmography. So I'm actually going to have to stay with this rating here, where I have it here in the F column. It's funny. He went from an all-time perfect movie to a huge failure in my eyes. It's not a movie I hate by any means. I'm not sure if Romero ever made a movie I outright hate. but this is his worst. I would say this is his worst film he ever did. So There's Always Vanilla, a big swing and a miss for Romero. Let's see. This is such an important horror film. Definitely top tier for me. Completely agree, Brother Neil. Well, a lot of people who saw my work that did for Scarlet Cinema said that I had Romero's style. Yeah, I remember you telling me that. Haven't seen Vanilla. Honestly, man, you don't have to. It's a very lackluster, unmemorable, unneeded film in Romero's filmography. It's one that I sought out for years. And I remember back in the day, the only way you could get it was if you bought the DVD of Season of the Witch. You could watch There's Always Vanilla as like a bonus feature on the disc. And I always sought out that DVD. It was in print, out of print, back and forth with being in print and stuff. And then I finally was just like, you know what, fuck it. Like, I'm going to find a way to stream the movie online, which is something I rarely do. And I watched it and was very, very let down by it. And I know Romero himself has called it the worst movie he ever made and his least favorite of all of his works, a movie that he was not proud of and a movie that he regretted making. So, I mean, take what I'm saying as a grain of salt, if you will. But even the man himself said that it was basically a waste of time. So I would say don't waste your time. I still wish George Romero made his version of War of the Worlds. That script is truly amazing. It would have an all-star cast and Pink Floyd doing the entire soundtrack instrumental. Yeah, that would have been cool, man. We'll make one movie that's a hit, but your second movie is the one that counts. Well, thankfully for Romero, it was the other way around. He kind of had the classic sophomore slump, where his freshman outing was this masterpiece that created a genre of horror, whereas his second movie made no money and no noise, and it's just a very bland film. There's really nothing to run home about. There's Always Vanilla. I really don't care for the film at all. I really think it's kind of a big failure in Romero's filmography. But he followed that up in 1973 with a movie with alternate titles, of course. The main one here is, of course, Season of the Witch. Of course, it also went under the name of Jack's Wife. It also went under the name of, I believe, maybe Day of the Woman, something like that. I believe it at the time was called Day of the Woman, although I know that's I Spit on Your Grave. That was the original title for that, so I could be confusing it. I know Jack's Wife was one. No, I think it was Jack's Wife, Hungry Wives, and Season of the Witch. I think it's those three titles. Season of the Witch obviously had the most appealing sound to it. And this is another one, man, where I want to like this movie a lot more than I do. And it has that 70s look, grit, feel, like it has that distinct 1970s look to it, exploitation, kind of grimy look, but it's not really an exploitation film. It basically tells the story of this woman who she feels that her husband does not value her very much, and he's also played by Ray Lane, who returns from There's Always Vanilla, and she feels that he doesn't value her. She starts hanging out with these new people, and they kind of get her into some weird shit, including becoming a witch. Now, of course, you have the infamous Donovan song in this Season of the Witch, which is probably the highlight of the movie, where she's going throughout this store buying these potions and things like that, and they play that classic song, "Must be the season of the witch." Boom, boom, boom. I mean, that's a highlight of the film. I like the look of the film. It's funny. It's very similar to There's Always Vanilla. The editing is there. The look of it's there. This one, really, I think of all of his films, is the biggest sufferer for not having money. It really, truly is. It is a movie that really needed a larger budget. And Romero himself actually said if there was ever a movie in his life that he would have liked to have remade, he wanted to remake this movie. He wanted more money to remake this. And I kind of understand exactly where he's coming from with that, because I think that is the main flaw of this film. It's the fact that he didn't have money here. And this movie does feel rather cheap at times. And it's funny, Romero is a guy that throughout his entire career, aside from Land of the Dead, never really had a gigantic budget to work with, right? Like his biggest budget ever was Land of the Dead. That was about $20 million. And that really, was the smallest budget, the biggest budget he had ever had to work with. So, I mean, it is what it is. But I don't know. Personally, I think that, this movie is one that would have benefited more from more money. And it's a shame that, he didn't have more money to make this film. I don't know. I kind of always considered this film what could have been of Romero's filmography. A film that has some interesting ideas. It is better than There's Always Vanilla, but it's one at the end of the day that, again, largely it's kind of an experimental film for him. It's not a film that I would really recommend for a lot of people. It's not a film that I think you have to watch. There's some people that have told me it's one of his all-time bests. I completely disagree with that. I don't really see it that way. For me, Season of the Witch comes right in around like a C minus, maybe even a D plus, but I'll say C minus for now. It's middle of the road for me at best. Let's see. Okay, here I accidentally X'd that screen. Let's see. Neon says, I have the Arrow Blu-ray for Season of the Witch, but I haven't yet watched it. Yeah, no, it's I would say it's more worth a watch than, of course, There's Always Vanilla, but I don't think it's a classic. There's some people that really overrate the film. I don't see it that way at all. It's actually estimated that Night of the Living Dead might be the most successful horror movie of all time, but we'll never know that true status because of the public domain from the start. Exactly. And Romero forever was upset about the fact that he couldn't make money off Night of the Living Dead. And he would go on to produce that remake that Savini did because he wanted to make more money off of it. He agreed to do the re-release of Night of the Living Dead in color, of course, to gain money off of it. So the rest of his career would try to do all these gimmicks to kind of gain more money from the film that he felt he should have banked on. And, that's a big thing that plagued Romero throughout his whole career, was making big profit. Not a lot of his films made gigantic profit, unfortunately. Hello, I met George Romero at a convention, and he signed my Dawn of the Dead DVD box set. Really nice guy. Didn't sell out to Hollywood. Dude, that's so cool. I have a similar story. I met George Romero at a convention as well, and he signed my Dawn of the Dead Blu-ray. And he was the nicest guy in the world. I still have the Blu-ray signed by him. And I don't know, I'm a big fan of Romero, the guy. He couldn't have been nicer. I remember I waited online over 6 hours, yet he greeted me like I was the first one there. I mean, it was a really cool day for me, and I'll never forget it. May George Romero rest in peace. And welcome, Mr. Cooper Glover, 1972. Season of the Witch song is by Donovan, and that's a great song. Didn't they remake it twice? Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and Season of the Witch with Nicolas Cage. LOL joke, bad joke. I hear you. Just finished watching Season of the Witch. Yeah, no, that's a good, really fun movie. Night was actually originally called Night of the Flesh Eaters. Yes, and it was originally considered a ghoul film, which, of course, that when it all changed, over time when it became the very first infamous zombie flesh-eating film, if you will. But fast forward the clocks a little bit to this little movie from the year, I believe, 1974, I want to say. It's either 74 or 73. It actually might be 73. Yeah, and Season of the Witch might have been 72. I believe that's right. From 1973, this is George A. Romero's The Crazies. Yes, The Crazies from 1973. This is, to me, one of the biggest bastard cousins between Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. Of course, you have this movie. You have a movie like Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, a.k.a. Living Dead at Manchester Morgue. Movies that I feel have the elements of both Night and Dawn of the Dead. But this one in particular, it's not exactly a zombie film. It's more of an infected person's film where this Trixie virus is in the water of this town. And if you drink the water, you slowly but surely start to become crazy. And all of these people in the town are losing their minds, and it's up to our, band of merry heroes to kind of escape the town with their sanity. And I don't know, I really always enjoyed this film. I did a Romero Director Spotlight episode where I went much more in depth on it. I did like a 45-minute review on this film. So if you wanted to hear my in-depth thoughts, I would highly recommend you watch that. But man, I think this film right here, The Crazies, is Romero's first big bounce back movie after Night of the Living Dead. Of course, There's Always Vanilla, Season of the Witch, for me, leave a little bit to be desired. But this film, to me, got him back on track for years to come. This was really the movie that started a nice pace for his career again. And I don't know, I really always enjoyed the ensemble cast. Of course, you have guys like Richard Liberty, who, of course, would go on to become Dr. Frankenstein and Day of the Dead. Of course, you have Lynn Lowry, who was in a ton of 1970s exploitation films, whether it be I Spit on Your Blood. I was going to say, I Drink Your Blood is what I meant to say. I Drink Your Blood. Of course, films like Shivers. Of course, films like The Crazies. Lynn Lowry did so many fun little exploitation horror films. And, of course, this is one that I always remember. And I always love the scene where she turns crazy and runs out into the middle of a field. And she gets shot down right in front of these sheep. And she kind of crumbles to the ground, and these sheep, this herd, sort of runs off to the left. Very, very classic George Romero scene there. And I don't know, I really enjoy this one. I think this has a little bit of everything in it. It has some nice action sequences. Again, it is low budget, but it's kind of a movie where I watch it and I see some of the action sequences and what they're going for with that. in Dawn of the Dead. It's kind of a movie that precurses Dawn of the Dead in a very good, fun way to me. I really enjoy this film. I enjoy the look of it. I think it's a movie that looks very good on Blu-ray. I have, of course, the Blue Underground Blu-ray from a few years ago. I know that Arrow did a 2K restoration Blu-ray of this, and I've heard that it looks very good, probably better than the Blue Underground one. But for now, I stick with the Blue Underground. I really enjoy this film. Like I said, if you want to hear my more in-depth thoughts, I went through this one like a whole analysis video and review. And this one, I would come in with a solid B. I think this is a big bounce back film for George Romero's filmography, and a movie that, I don't know, I grew to really, really enjoy over the years. And let's see. I think we were here. I have the Crazies on Blu-ray too and still haven't gotten around to watching it. I have seen the remake though. Oh, that's interesting. Thoughts on the remake? I haven't seen that remake in a while. I do not remember liking it very much. It seemed like a very toned up version of the original. And I don't know. It's not the worst remake in the world. It's certainly a passable film. But I don't know. To me, it's the simplicity of Romero's film from the 70s that really, I liked. Breck Eisner, did the remake, and I was not a big fan. Aiden Baver's in the house. I love me some George A. Romero films, but I will admit Carpenter's my favorite master filmmaker of all time. I would go Romero over Carpenter for sure, but Carpenter's still great. Night came out sort of at the right time with the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement. Yeah, hey, man, timing is everything with filming, man. It really is. Timing is truly everything when it comes to making great horror movies, and Night of the Living Dead was one of those. I wish that George Cameron Romero can make it in the big leagues. He's directing now, yes, the young son of George Romero. Hey, man, that would be really cool. I'd love to see that. Romero liked making Day of the Dead best of the Dead. Yes, he did. He felt that was the best of the films. Romero makes a cameo as a reporter in Night, and he also makes a cameo in Dawn of the Dead, of course, as the news station guy, which I always thought that was a fun cameo. But moving on into the year of, I believe it was 1976, when George A. Romero tackled the vampire genre in a very different way, a way that nobody had ever done before, and dare I say, nobody ever really has since. It's his film from 1976. Is Martin. Yes, Martin. To me, Romero's most underrated work and an all-time masterpiece, classic horror movie that more people really should put over. I think it is just a really underrated movie in his work. And I don't know, I think that John Amplas's performance is arguably the best performance in any Romero film here too, as he of course plays this young boy who of course appears to be in his 20s, but he believes he's 84 years old. He believes he's a vampire. He goes to stay with his cousin Tatsukuda, and who's also of course played by Lincoln Mazel, and of course his, I believe, his other cousin or whatever, played by Christine Forrest, who would go on to marry George Romero. And he's basically a vampire who will not suck your blood and fly around, and you don't have to invite him into your house. This is a movie that really plays against the whole vampire rules. And it's a movie that more so is discussing the ideas of why people are some of the scariest things in the world. And in real life, you can't get people to do what you want them to do. Of course, that's, to me, the biggest quote from this movie that I always took away. And I don't know, I really enjoy Martin. Of course, the film always gets your eye and catches your eye with that opening scene on the train where Martin is, traveling from one town to another, and he sees this woman that he's attracted to. And of course, he kind of drugs her and slits her wrists and drinks her blood. And then, of course, you get the opening score. I mean, such an impactful opening. I mean, that's how you open your horror film. I mean, it's truly tremendous, this movie. I really, really like it. And of course, there's some scenes in the town where he's warned by Tatsukuda, if you kill even a single time, I will strike you down. I will kill you with a stake to the heart, and you will never, be seen or heard from again. And Tatsukuda really does believe Martin to be a vampire, as does Martin. And the film has a very grimy feel to it, grimy look. It's kind of shot in a lesser area of Pittsburgh. It's kind of, discussing classism a little bit as well. I really like this movie. It has a nice look to it. I know for years there's been talk of there being a longer cut of this film, a cut that's 3 hours long. And it just recently was found in some random warehouse. And of course, the person who found it is being an asshole about it and won't sell it for, he's basically holding the film for ransom. I'm not selling it. I'm not selling it. I know Second Sight Films, who did that Dawn of the Dead 4K, they were trying to buy that longer cut from him. He refused to sell it to them. So he's going to hold it for ransom until he basically gets the sum of money that he wants. It's fucking disgusting, to be honest, because being a big fan of this movie, and it's around, I think, an hour and 38 minutes. It's not a long film. I would kill to see the longer cut of like another hour plus of footage. I would love to see what some of that other footage was. And it's unfortunately, probably will not be seen by the masses for years and years to come. But I don't know, there's something about Martin that I always really liked and was drawn to with the horror genre. And to me, it's an interesting take on the vampire film. And I love some of the scenes where it harkens back to what Martin believes is his past. And the film goes from color to black and white, and he imagines himself in this gothic castle. And it's really one of the few times ever where Romero kind of got gothic horror as opposed to Night of the Living Dead. I mean, other than Night of the Living Dead, none of his films have a gothic horror feel to them. This movie does in its flashback sequences, and they're absolutely tremendous when they are done right here. And I also love that there's plenty of scenes where Martin is calling in on the radio to this late night radio talk show host who's basically making fun of him. The talk show host is making fun of him and saying that, he's calling him the Count, and their ratings are going up and stuff. And Martin calls this guy basically to vent out his frustrations and say that, he'd love to have sex with someone who was alive, and he would love to not have to kill these women and drink their blood, and how damaged he is as a person. And it's truly heartbreaking stuff. Martin as a character is a very tragic character in film history. And man, your heart goes out to him a lot. I love the scene where he kind of invades this woman's house who's cheating on her husband, and he's slowly but surely trying to kind of manipulate and drug his way and kill some of these people. And it's really well done movie. He has this love interest that he falls in love with, and she's suicidal. And I don't know, there's something about this film. I think it just has a very grand, feel to it, and has a very nice scope to it. To me, it's Romero's most serious film, his most tragic film, and honestly his most underrated film. And I know he rallied to this film and championed this film and said it was his favorite movie that he ever made. And, I can't really argue with that. Now, do I have movies of his that I like more? Absolutely. But very few, because I think Romero's top 3 would have to consist of Martin somewhere in there. So Martin, for me, comes right in an S tier. I adore this film, everything about it. Amplis's performance. It's the first time he ever worked with Tom Savini, of course, who does the special makeup effects. The Rubenstein brothers helped work on this as well. And the movie that in a lot of ways saved George Romero's career, because after The Crazies sort of flopped, he needed a hit desperately. He needed a movie that makes some kind of a profit in order to stay relevant. Otherwise, if this movie had flopped, I don't know if he ever would have been able to make Dawn of the Dead. I don't know if he ever would have made a Creepshow, Day of the Dead, etc. I really don't know. I think Martin is arguably the most important film of his filmography. It's one of these two right here. I mean, it's Night of the Living Dead or Martin. Night of the Living Dead for influential, Martin for saving his career, in a lot of ways. So I don't know. I adore Martin. To me, an absolute masterpiece. And yet again, another one I went in depth on that director's spotlight episode. So again, if you want my 45-minute, 50-minute review of this, you can watch that video. And I went in depth on what my thoughts are on this one. So I really enjoy it. Let's see, back to comments here. I got to get back to this screen. Let's see. Oh, so I don't know where we left off now. I think we were here. Martin is arguably Romero's best film and a masterpiece. Completely agree. Actually agree with George Romero. Day of the Dead is the best, but I would love to see the original script, the Ben-Hur of zombie movies. Yeah, that original script would have been really cool as opposed to what they did with Land of the Dead. I think they totally deserved to make that movie instead. Martin and Dawn of the Dead deserve that awesome Blu-ray maybe one day. Yeah, no, I mean, Dawn of the Dead has that awesome 4K, but of course it's region locked, so that's unfortunate. At least the special features are locked. The 4Ks aren't. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a great message. You can't change somebody who doesn't want to be changed. Exactly. That's basically the whole point of the film. And it's tragic. There's horrific elements to it. If I ever did a top filmmakers of list, Romero would be on there. Totally agree. Hash Brown released the Romero cut. I would love to see the Romero cut. Season of the Witch is at a C. No argument. I agree. And There's Always Vanilla I have never seen, but it's reviewed as Romero's worst work. It's got to be one of his worst for sure. Dawn of the Dead is out on 4K. Its Second Sight Films includes the Can and Argento cut. Yeah, no, and I've heard the transfers are great. I don't have a region free player, so all those new features would go to waste, unfortunately. And I would kill to see those features. But it is what it is. It's kind of a shame. Let's see. The musical score in Martin is haunting and beautiful. Yeah, no, I love the musical score in Martin. It is. It's really a depressing film when you think about it, but man, it's a great one. I really love Martin. I love that movie. But of course, moving on into the year of 1978, where he made, in my opinion, the greatest film of all time. This is George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. My favorite all-time movie, period. I mean, I adore this film. I love the ensemble cast of Ken Foree, of course, Scott Reiniger, Galen Ross, and David Emge. They all do wonderful jobs. I always thought it was funny that two of the four of them were actually working at a diner that Romero had eaten dinner at, and then basically offered them roles in this movie. And, little do they know that they go on to be my favorite movie of all time. They're not really big standout actors in this. It's kind of a testament for Romero's career. He was a guy that liked to make a lot out of nothing. And to me, it's the most grand film ever made. It has horror, it has comedy, it has drama, it has suspense, it has action, it has Western elements with this kind of gun holster scene, and it's a biker film in some ways. It's the most grand film ever made to me. It has a little bit of everything to it, and that's why I've always championed this as my favorite all-time movie. Of course, who could forget the Savini effects and the Crayola color red gore in it? That bright red Crayola gore that I just have grown to just love over the years, almost like a comic book. The blue zombies, who I know when in person they look gray, but in the film they look almost blue. I don't know. It's just one of those movies. Even the things that went wrong kind of add to the movie as a charm. Of course, the pie fight. Of course, the soundtrack and the score by Goblin, which is my all-time favorite score in a movie. I mean, so many great mall montage scenes, and the gonk. And of course, the hunt, which is my favorite piece of music in any film. When Ken Foree says, "Oh, we're going on a hunt," and he shoots a zombie between the eyes, they play this dramatic music called "The Hunt," and it is the most inspiring piece of music I think I've ever heard in my life. It's just truly wonderful music. I absolutely adore it. And I don't know, there's just something about Dawn of the Dead that every time I watch it, I smile when I watch it. It's a movie that I've seen a million times. I've seen it to death. It is my favorite all-time movie, but it's also a movie that never, ever gets old and never fails to put a smile on my face. I always adored Scott Reiniger's character, of course, and how much you dread his death upon rewatch viewings, how likable he was and how life was Rogers. And yet, when he dies, it's just such a heartbreaking scene of, did we get him? Didn't we whip him? We whipped him. We whipped him good. We whipped him and we got it all, and Ken Foree is forced to kill his best friend. I mean, it's just a heartbreaking scene, but it's really well done here, man. I adore Dawn of the Dead. It's just, to me, it's the perfect movie. The special makeup effects, the head explosion, the helicopter decapitation, just so many wonderful scenes in this movie to me make it the all-time greatest film. And like I said, I have done Romero spotlights. I've done in-depth reviews on Dawn of the Dead. I believe it's one of my longest reviews ever when I discuss this film. So I don't want to go all night about it. Of course, like I said, this is more of a ranking as opposed to reviewing the individual films. But man, to me, Dawn of the Dead, you cannot get a better movie than this. It's my favorite all-time movie and probably always will be. Long live Dawn of the Dead, an easy slam dunk S tier. My absolute all-time favorite movie, and I always thank George Romero for it. Let's see. Back here. Dawn of the Dead. Oh, here we go. It's weird with Dawn 4K. I have two region-free players, and one will play the discs and the other won't. Why? I have no idea. Exactly, and that's bullshit I try to avoid, Neil. Like, to me, if I'm going to drop $100 on a set, I want all the discs to be played, no stress free. And if that is the case, like, I will wait for a Region 1 4K. It's my favorite all-time movie. Now, hard and bad it hurt me to not buy it. Like, I don't even think words could describe how upset I was I couldn't buy that when it came out. But I was just like, you know what? Like, I'll wait. I'll wait for a Region 1. I get it that Richard P. Rubenstein's a piece of shit and he's held the film for hostage, just like how Martin is held for hostage. I've seen both of those, unfortunately. And, by the time they get Region 1 releases, this good special edition releases, it might have to be till after Richard P. Rubenstein passes away, which is crazy enough to say. But honestly, that looks like the case, unfortunately. Dawn of the Dead, 1978, definitely a film I rewatch a lot, and I'm frustrated that it doesn't have that awesome Blu-ray. I would say the Anchor Bay Blu-ray looks very nice. I have it, and I have it signed by Romero, so it's one of my prized possessions. My favorite film signed by George Romero. Very cool stuff. It's an amazing movie, by the way, far better in black and white. It's kind of fits more with the Night of the Living Dead if you watch it in black and white. I don't know. I always like the Dawn of the Dead is in color. To me, Dawn of the Dead is way more what I love about 70s horror films. Like, each horror film zombie wise that he made felt distinctly of that era and decade that it was made in. Like Night of the Living Dead is so 60s, and this is so 70s, and Day of the Dead is so 80s, and Land of the Dead so 2000s, etc. He really was able to capture the era that he made these films in, and a lot of them. I love Dawn of the Dead. Easily, man, my favorite movie of all time. Goblin's score and Dawn of the Dead is beautiful. Let's be honest. This was Argento and Romero collaboration fans wanted, and Two Evil Eyes, well, we will soon get there. Yeah, Two Evil Eyes sucks, in my opinion. It's unfortunate. But, it's funny. Romero wrote the script to Dawn of the Dead. He flew to Italy and wrote the script there in Dario Argento's apartment, while Dario Argento came to New York, and that's where they met, and they had dinner in New York, and he was shooting for Suspiria. So Argento was making Suspiria, and Romero was writing Dawn of the Dead. Those are two of my favorite films of all time. Like, both of those movies are in my top 11 or 12 favorite movies of all time, wherever Suspiria lands. It's crazy, and they became really great friends, and it's nice to see that they both kind of peaked at the same time. I can't wait until he ranks Mr. Rogers' episodes that Romero directed. Well, they're not on here, unfortunately. We could rank Mr. Rogers Goes to the Dentist. I know he directed that. I like that there's no hope at the end of Dawn. The end of Day, I find to be a cop-out. No, see, I actually, I get what you're saying, that they feel that they're hopeless. But to me, the whole point of the end of Dawn of the Dead is the fact that they didn't give up. And the fact that Galen Ross says to Ken Foree, how much fuel do we have left? Oh, not much. All right. No matter what their situation, no matter that they lost their best friend and Fran lost her lover, Ken Foree kind of makes the point of, all right, like, we still have to go on. We still have to keep fighting. We still have to move on and see where we can go from here, because you can't take the easy way out in life. I love the ending as they kind of fly off into the sunset and the zombies kind of chase and put their arms up. I just adore it. I think it's wonderful. I really do. I think it's a wonderful movie, and a movie that has gone to be one of my all-time favorite movies, my absolute all-time favorite movie. I love Dawn of the Dead. I owe the Out of Print Shout Factory Blu-ray of Dark Half and Monkey Shines. Dude, that's awesome. I regret not buying them. The next George Romero ranking the Mr. Rogers episodes. Absolutely. Miss Alicia Full is in the house. I've never seen you on here. Welcome to the graveyard, my friend. Hope all is well. If you want to hit the subscribe button, we're close to 500. Just saying. Without the Romero Dead films, you don't get Resident Evil. Yeah, that's definitely right. I don't know. I've never really made that big correlation. I'm not a giant Resident Evil guy. I'm still angry Romero's Resident Evil film never happened. It should have happened. Oh, well. I don't know if he would have been the right guy to make that. I really don't. I don't think his style would have benefited that. Granted, I mean, maybe it would have been better than the guy they ultimately went with, Paul W.S. Anderson, but, I mean, we'll never know. But moving on into the year 1981, you have this little film here, of course, starring the legendary Ed Harris. This is Night Riders. Yes, Night Riders from 1981. This was Romero's big passion project, and when Dawn of the Dead came out and was a big success, he met up with Salah M. Hassanin, who wanted desperately to make the sequel to Dawn of the Dead. He offered Romero a 3-picture deal where Romero could pick 2 of the 3, do whatever he wanted to do, and then the third one, of course, had to be the sequel to Dawn of the Dead. So he started with this big passion project that is not a horror film in 1981's Night Riders. Now, this tells the story of these people that kind of have this medieval times thing, and they do these jousting sessions. Ed Harris plays the lead. Tom Savini plays your antagonist. Of course, Ken Foree is in there. Patricia Tallman is in there. Scott Reiniger in a small role. You have a lot of people that you would go on to see in Romero films in the future and from Romero films of the past. And I don't know. I always really love Night Riders. I think it's a film that has its heart in the right place. The only issue I have with it is overlong. It is a little overlong. I get it that it was Romero's passion project and he wanted to make it as long as he possibly could. There are some fun scenes in this. There's a scene where Ed Harris towards the end beats the shit out of this bully guy in a McDonald's. And it's a very funny scene. I really like Ed Harris as the lead here. This was the movie that really got his career off the ground. Of course, he shows up in Creepshow and the fun little spot in Father's Day segment. But I don't know. I always loved Ed Harris and this as the lead. I thought he did a really nice job. I like this movie as a whole. I think it just has a nice heart to it, a nice feel. I like the love story in it. I think that Tom Savini does a fun job as the antagonist. And it's kind of a cool little movie to kind of cleanse the palate of horror for Romero, because Romero did almost all horror, and it's, to me, it's a much better venture into making a non-horror film for Romero as opposed to There's Always Vanilla was. There's Always Vanilla to me is a big failure, whereas Night Riders is a big success. I really like this film. To me, it's either on the B plus to an A level. I'm going to lean towards an A minus for now. I think it's a very fun Romero film. Probably the Romero film that is the least seen by people. I believe there's a Blu-ray of it from Shout Factory. I'm not sure if it is still in print or not, but it's a film that I always really liked and a film that I think is kind of deserving of more love. I really like Night Riders. It's come in at like an A minus for me. Let's see. I believe we were here. By the way, at 500, you can actually build community posts. Yeah, that's going to be really cool when we hit it, man. I hope we get there because that's going to be a lot of fun. Double giveaway as well. Night Riders feel like Romero's most personal film, and it's wonderful, but I only recommend to hardcore Romero fans. Yeah, no, if you're going into it expecting a horror film, you're going to be very disappointed, unfortunately. Shawn Blue Digital's in the house. Hey, creeps, LOL, what's up? Dude, welcome to the graveyard, man. I think you're a first time on the show, man. Welcome, man. You, of course, had posted that it was the anniversary of The Hills Have Eyes yesterday, and I went ahead and I watched my 4K of it last night, man. I love that movie, one of my all-time faves. Shawn Blue Digital has an awesome channel. If you want to go subscribe to him, he does awesome, awesome stuff. The ending to Night Riders is amazing. Seriously, if people haven't watched it, they will be shocked. Yeah, it's kind of a downer ending for sure, but a damn good film. I like Night Riders a lot. Night Riders and Bruiser are his least seen. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I need to get Night Riders for my collection eventually. Yeah, no, that's one that I haven't bought either. I had the DVD for the longest time and sold it because it was out of print. And then when they put that Blu-ray out, I should have cashed in on it, man. I think that was around the time where I was just kind of with Shout Factory, because Shout Factory hit and miss for me. But okay, he's saying that the Blu-ray is still $15. So honestly, to me, it's one that I should pick up because I don't think it's one that's ever going to get a 4K. Think I'll get it now. Hell yeah, I think you just made them $30 in Blu-ray sales, Mr. Vavra. So very cool. Blu-ray is excellent. Highly recommend. Awesome. Okay. But moving on here into the year 1982, this film just recently, actually, no, it didn't recently yet. I believe in September or October, this one celebrates its 40th anniversary. This is the most fun you will ever have being scared. 5 Tales of the Macabre from Stephen King and George A. Romero. This is Creepshow. Yes, Creepshow from 1982. To me, one of the all-time great horror movies and arguably the greatest horror anthology out there. I mean, there are some horror anthologies I maybe like more, like Three Extremes and Trilogy of Terror 2. And, I'm a huge horror anthology nut. There are a lot of horror anthologies I like out there. But for me, there's no horror anthology movie that is more beloved than this one right here. Of course, Stephen King and George Romero coming together, collaborating, and creating 5 jolting tales of horror that are memorable even to this day. I mean, of course, there's Father's Day, and of course, The Lonesome Death of Geordie Verrill, and Something to Tide You Over, The Crate, They're Creeping Up on You, the fun wraparound story with Tom Atkins and Joe Hill. This is just one of those great movies that comes along in the history of the genres, and in the 1980s as a whole, that really elevates the 1980s and horror as a whole. I adore Creepshow. I just recently, not even 2-3 months ago, did a Creepshow retrospective where I discussed Creepshow 1, 2, unfortunately 3, and the television series, where I went in depth on all the stories. My personal favorite is either The Lonesome Death of Geordie Verrill, just because of the fun Stephen King performance, or Something to Tide You Over, just because I love Leslie Nielsen as the heel. And of course, Ted Danson does a wonderful job in it as well. I don't know. I love Creepshow. The Savini special makeup effects, the style that George Romero brings. To me, it's the film that he made that has the best style. Like, the movie of all of his movies, the one that needs a 4K is Creepshow, because it's the most beautiful film. I mean, he used all these vibrant reds and blues and purples and pinks and magentas and all these beautiful colors that just sort of pop off the screen. And Creepshow to me is just a wonderful movie. All the stories feel different. Stephen King does a wonderful job writing and a really fun over-the-top job acting. To me, Creepshow is a slam dunk S tier, one of the great horror movies of the 1980s and one of the best of George Romero's illustrious career. For me, another slam dunk S tier for George A. Romero. I love this film. One of the all-time greats for sure. Let's see. I think we were here. Creepshow was a lot of fun. Totally agree, man. I adore Creepshow. Yeah, it's been years since I've seen Night Riders, and I remember this movie was pretty pricey at times. Yeah, the DVD, I had the out-of-print DVD, paid bank for it, man, but I thankfully got that money back. I sold it, but I've never upgraded back to the Blu-ray, so it's something I need to do. Creepshow is awesome. Romero's most stylish films. All the stories, fan-flipping, flam-flipping-tastic, sorry, and I adore the Georgie segment. Georgie segment's my favorite. I like the oil slick lake and Creepshow too. Of course, the raft. I love that too. I went in depth on all of those. Creepshow is in my top 5 favorite horror films. See, I mean, you can't argue that. It's such a wonderful movie. It just has everything going for it, man. I adore Creepshow. It's just so many great memories watching that movie as a kid growing up. I do love Creepshow. Same here. Meteor shit. Yeah, the classic legendary line. I don't know. I adore this movie. Creepshow is another perfect movie for me for Romero's filmography. But moving on here into the year 1985, this is the darkest day in horror the world had ever known. This is George Romero's Day of the Dead, the third and final of the original Romero trilogy. It's funny, it's almost like Star Wars. You have the original trilogy and then the trilogy years and years later in the early 2000s. And to me, this is Romero's last masterpiece. I really consider it that. And it's funny because after this, the show will take sort of a turn, right? Because there will not be an S tier movie after this movie for me. And I guess I can not, keep you in suspense. Of course, Day of the Dead is an S tier movie for me. To me, this was Romero combining everything he had ever learned to that point and combining it into one film. And in a lot of ways, even while I said Dawn of the Dead is my all-time favorite movie, and it is, Day of the Dead is better. It really is. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Of course, the backstory, George Romero initially needed $6 million to make the film that he wanted to make. It was going to be, as Ty Junebug was saying, the Ben-Hur of zombie movies. He needed the $6 million budget. And he wanted to be, as gory or crazy as whatever. Unfortunately, Sal M. Hassanen said, unless you settle for the budget of $3.5 million, I can't do it X-rated. We'd have to do it R-rated, and your film's going to be cut down. Romero said, fuck that. Give me the $3.5 million. I want to make the movie that I want to make. And unfortunately, he had to kind of, limit the movie on what he wanted to be. He wanted it to be this zombie epic. And instead, you get this very gritty zombie film in this underground bunker with all of these very, very over-the-top performances from Joe Pilato and Richard Liberty and Terry Alexander and, of course, what's her damn name? Cardell. What's her damn first name? I want to say, what's the lead's name? And something Cardell or I forget her damn name. I'm going to look in the comments here. Oh, nobody said it. I want to say Lori Cardell, but I feel like I'm wrong. I'm not sure. But she does a wonderful job as the lead in this as well. And I don't know. To me, this is one of those movies that I always looked at Day of the Dead, and it's almost like a play. It's like an epic play because a lot of the film is dialogue. A lot of the film is people yelling at each other. But in between, you get the best makeup effects in the history, I think, of the genre. I really do. Like all due respect to The Thing, and I think The Thing is a masterpiece too. But to me, when I watch a movie for gore and special makeup effects, I look no further than Romero's Day of the Dead. It is Tom Savini's masterpiece. It is Savini's greatest day in the sun. I love the score from John Harrison, as well as he would do the score in Creepshow as well. I love his score in this. The amazing score. I really like it. Of course, the crazy over-the-top characters, of course, Gary Clark, and, he's just a lot of fun. Bang, you're dead. And I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein, and I want to know what the fuck you're doing with my time. And, I mean, this movie just has such colorful, fun characters. I just really, really enjoy the characters in this movie. They do such a fun job of being over the top and crazy. And I don't know, man. This is one of those movies that every time I watch it, I kind of like it a little bit more. And of course, you have Bub the zombie, played by Howard Sherman, or Sherman Howard. I always forget. I feel like he's gone both ways with that. And he does a really good job as Bub the zombie, who he had this past in the military, and he's listening to music, and Dr. Frankenstein is almost teaching him how to do tricks. And of course, by the end, he's taught him one trick too many, as he carries a gun and shoots Joe Pilato. And of course, you get the classic choke on him as Joe Pilato is pulled apart by the zombies. Just a wonderful movie. And Romero had said in his life that, there's a lot of people always tell him they find Night of the Living Dead to be the best. A lot of people always tell him that Dawn of the Dead is the best. But he says that the true trolls, the true gorehounds, love Day of the Dead and consider it the best, as did Romero. Romero considered Day of the Dead to be his best zombie movie that he ever did. And I can't really argue with that. Dawn of the Dead is my personal favorite, but I think Day of the Dead is the second best. It's just a wonderful film. And to me, was his last masterpiece. I really do believe that. I don't believe after this Romero ever made a film close to it. I really think Day of the Dead is one of the great movies in the history of horror. I love Day of the Dead. To me, the best zombie movie of the 1980s. I would go that far to say that. Really love this one. Let's see. It was Laurie Cardell. Okay, I thought so. Romero's Dead trilogy is like the Star Wars trilogy, but horror. Yeah, definitely. Romero had a total control on Day, but because he couldn't get all the money he wanted, as you say, I think he pulled out all the stops with using the money he had. Yeah, it's a shame that he didn't get to, make the movie he wanted to make with the $6 million budget, but in a lot of ways, I don't know if that would have worked, man, because you see Land of the Dead, he finally got that big budget. He finally went to get known actors. And to me, I don't think any of those actors are as memorable as a Joe Pilato, as a Richard Liberty, as a Laurie Cardell, as a Terry Alexander, and the Jamaican accent. Sarah, we got to be soaking up some sunshine, and I'll be drinking the fucking vodka booze steel because there won't be any other fucking left, and all the over-the-top cursing. And this is one of those movies that I just, every time I watch it, I love it even more. I adore Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead is my favorite zombie film and one of my favorite films, period. It's perfect. Wouldn't change a thing. Totally, totally love that movie too. Dawn and Day are both masterpieces. I'm not sure which one I like more. I think Dawn is the best movie ever made, but to me, Day is a better film technically. I think he used everything that he had learned, and applied it. But there's just something about Dawn I like more. It's more fun. It's more comic book like. It's just, to me, it's more grand. Whereas Day of the Dead, I think, is a better made movie. I think it's smaller than Dawn of the Dead. And I think there's some people that appreciate the smaller scale. To me, Dawn of the Dead is just, even though he made the movie for under $1 million, he still made the fucking thing feel like it was global. And the score and the character actors, and just, I don't know, I adore Dawn of the Dead. It's my favorite movie. Bub, hello, Bub. Romero's good with humor, like in Dawn and Day. Even though it's horrifying, it sort of makes you laugh. Yeah, no, absolutely. This film could be quite funny at times. Like, I love the back and forth dialogue and Sarah's research and all the over the top. It really is. It's like a school play, how this movie is set up fundamentally. But to me, it's just a masterpiece. I love Day of the Dead. To me, Romero's last great film. I really do believe that. To me, the last masterpiece movie he ever made. And of course, after this, he would take a little bit of a hiatus, like a 3-year hiatus, until he would make his next film, which came out in the year 1988. This is Monkey Shines. Yes, Monkey Shines from 1988. This one basically tells the story of Jason Bagkey, I believe is the actor's name. And of course, Kate McNeil is his love interest in it. She always remember her in a little movie called The House on Sorority Row. She was the final girl in that. She kind of shows up as the love interest in this. And of course, he is out for a run at the beginning of the film, and he gets run over by this car. And unfortunately is ultimately paralyzed from the waist down. And he gets this monkey to kind of help him with his, chores throughout the house. And the monkey takes care of him, helps him get his food, helps him bathe. And the monkey slowly but surely sort of falls in love with its owner and gets jealous when, of course, our lead falls in love with Kate McNeil. And the monkey slowly but surely starts to go mad. And it is a very fun little film for Romero to tackle here. And I love that he got away from the zombie film when making a movie like this. Because we had seen in the past the vampire film in Martin and how much I love Martin and the comic book film in Creepshow. He found a good ways to get away from the zombie genre that he was known and loved for. This is his tackle on a sort of crazy, wild animal horror film, and Monkey Shines is a damn good one in that. Now, I will say this. It's a film I wish I liked more than I do. And I know people were probably like, well, you sound like you like it. And I do. Don't get me wrong. I like Monkey Shines. I just don't think it's like a great movie by any means. Like it's solid, but I almost expect a little bit more. Like maybe because if you look at his past films, I mean, look at Martin to Day of the Dead. You have 4 out of 5 S tier movies and an A. I don't consider this an A or an S. It's solid. It's good. I just don't. It's always lacking something for me. But what it's lacking, I don't know if I could quite put my finger on it. The acting's good, the psychology good, the horror sequences in it are good. The finale is heartbreaking. It has its moments of being crazy, batshit. Special makeup effects are good. It's got a good pace to it. I don't know what my issue is and what I could say it's lacking in. I don't know what I would say. But I would say overall that it is a good movie. I don't know. It's just one of those movies that I don't go crazy about like some people do. And it's a movie that really doesn't get much love either. Not a lot of people do talk about Monkey Shines. And you know, it's one I wish got more talk, but I understand why it doesn't get the praise that these 5 movies do up here. For me, it's a solid B. It's slightly above B minus. I say B plus range for Monkey Shines. A solid film, a film that I think he had to make after Day of the Dead, and a film that he took his good old time making. Of course, before the days of CGI, thankfully, you know, because if you'd made this movie now, it 100% would have been a CGI monkey. They used a real monkey, and you know, that cannot be easy to film with. I mean, ask Dario Argento when he made Phenomena, how hard it is to film with a chimpanzee that is alive and not a CGI one. I appreciate this film. I like this film. I just never viewed it as great of his other work. It's a solid movie, nothing wrong with it, but nothing to run home about either. It's just one of those movies that's kind of in the middle for me. But an above average film, I would say. Let's see. Let's go here. Back to comments. I think we were here. Day probably well technically done. Yeah, definitely. I have some weird things to say about Land of the Dead, LOL, but I will wait till we get there. Yeah, no, Land of the Dead I find to be a big disappointment. I like Monkey Shines, but I haven't seen it in over 20 years or more. Wow, that's crazy. I believe the film is worth another watch, man. I will say I like the movie. It's just like I don't consider it like his other films to me. Like it's always just like I watch it and I'm like, I could be watching another Romero film. I don't know. It's weird to say because I appreciate that what it did different too. It's such a weird film for me. Phenomena's better. Killer Monkey movie. I mean, well, yeah, Phenomena's a better movie for sure. I don't know. I would say this is more of a Killer Monkey movie, but Phenomena has a killer monkey in it, you know, and that movie kicks ass. Don't get me wrong. I love the soundtrack, heavy metal, Flash of the Blade. I love that movie, man. In Escape from New York, some of the characters are named after horror directors. Scientist named Cronenberg, Duke's followers named Romero. Very cool stuff. The ending was reshot, and it cost Romero the job for Pet Sematary. That's a shame that happened because I think Pet Sematary was the movie he needed to direct much more over this, but it's unfortunate he didn't get to do that. I never cared for Monkey Shines. It's watchable, but it doesn't feel like it was executed properly, just my opinion. I would agree with that completely. I like it is fine, but it's just not up there with his other works. It's just not. It's not a movie I wouldn't say I hate or dislike. It's just not as good as his other stuff. It's weird. It's like, perfect example, like if I say I like apples compared to oranges, people initially their reactions are, oh, well, you hate oranges. No, that's not it at all. Like I like oranges too. It's just not the same way. Wow, never knew that, Aiden. Yeah, no, that's true. He unfortunately couldn't direct Pet Sematary because of Monkey Shines, the reshot ending. And it does feel like a tacked on ending. It really does. It's a weird ending. Did you talk about the amusement park? I have yet to watch it on Shudder. Dude, I don't have Shudder, unfortunately, and it wasn't on this tier list when I brought this up. So that's one I cannot discuss yet. When they come out with the Blu-ray in September, that's when I'll be watching the amusement park. I don't have Shudder. I will see it eventually. I like Lincoln Mazel, and I know he's the lead in that. So I will see that eventually for sure. They've been showing Phenomena on Shudder TV a lot. I just saw Phenomena in New York City a couple weeks ago on 35 millimeter, and it was majestic. It was so cool. And Argento did a Q&A for the film after it ended. One of the coolest nights of my life. Very, very fun night. What's up, everybody? What's up, Grande? I am the Ice Lord. What's up, good brother? Hope all is well with you, man. I had no idea Romero directed Monkey Shines until just a few years ago. I was looking at his filmography to see what my collection was missing. Yeah, I do that from time to time too, man. I'll be like, oh, I don't have this one. I'll pick it up, and whether I've seen it or not, Or Orion messed with Romero during production of Monkey Shines. That's why I feel it doesn't have that classic Romero feel. Yeah, no, I don't know quite what it's missing. I really don't. Like usually if I dislike a film, or if I am, not all in on a film or whatever, I will have a reason or a alternative. Like, oh, if they had done this, it would have been better. I don't have that for Monkey Shines. Like, I don't know what I would have done differently, because I think it's a fine movie. It's just not up there with his other stuff. It's just one of those. Apparently, Christopher Reeve was considered for the role. Kind of ironic if you think about it. That's actually very sad. That's really, really sad, because I love Christopher Reeve. I would have been cool. He's a better actor than fucking Jason Biggie, although he does a good job. Hey, Wes. I'm not sure who Wes is. Is Wes I Am the Ice Lord? I didn't know that. Ice Lord is Wes. Very cool to find out. Original Night of the Living Dead came out during the time where the civil rights movement was just the beginning, and the zombies kind of resemble the non-whites who were fighting for their rights. Ooh, I don't know about that. I know that the whole thing with that is at the ending, of course, Dwayne Jones, was he shot because he was a zombie, or was he shot because of the color of his skin? I know people have discussed that for years. I always believed that it was Romero just trying to have a tragic ending, and they did not mean for the political commentary. It just sort of happened because apparently when they finished shooting Night of the Living Dead, they were driving back to, edit the film in Pittsburgh, and they heard on the radio that Martin Luther King had been shot after they had shot that scene. So, it's funny how, it looks meta and it looks like he was trying to say something, but in reality, there was no way he could have known, and that's what I always loved about Romero. He just kind of fell into that whole political commentary on the civil rights movement and things like that, Martin Luther King. And I don't know, I really appreciate Romero for that, man. Like, he's just something he fell into, similar to how Tobe Hooper fell into Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So these guys are saying hi to each other. So we'll move on to the next film here, of course, from the year 1990. This is Two Evil Eyes. Of course, it was the first collaboration directing-wise, director, and only collaboration between Dario Argento and George Romero, of course, where both would direct a 1-hour Edgar Allan Poe story. Now, for me, there's no more disappointing George Romero film and Dario Argento film than this film right here, Two Evil Eyes. If you had those two combine and work together in the 1970s, when Romero was working on Dawn of the Dead, when Argento was working on a Suspiria, if you had after that, instead of Night Riders and instead of Inferno, well, Inferno is, essential to Argento's filmography, but if you had them work together maybe in 1979 or 1980, work together on a film, I think that would have been an all-time masterpiece. And especially if they were doing both original work. Here, they both adapt Edgar Allan Poe stories, and man, I don't think either one of them are very good. To me, this is a below-average film, especially considering the two names involved of Romero and Argento. Those are my two favorite horror directors ever. I don't think there's any horror director better than those two. Like, they're 1A and 1B. I don't know. Some days I put Romero above Argento. Some days I put Argento above Romero. But to me, they're the two best ever. And it's just so crazy that they collaborated here and made a movie that I find to be very much below average. It's very much a movie I wish was better and I wish I liked more. But to me, it's a low D. It's like a D- for me. It's barely above passing. I can pass the film because it does have some merit. The Romero segment has a fun performance from Adrienne Barbeau and has decent special makeup effects. The Black Cat segment from Argento is a fucking mess with Harvey Keitel. I don't like it at all. I don't know. This film, man, always found it to be below average. I know they just released a 4K of it. Not a movie I'll ever dip on. Unless this is one of those movies, if I found a DVD for $5, I'd pick it up. But otherwise, I find this to be a big swing and a miss from the two greatest horror film directors of all time. For me, a big disappointment, the biggest disappointment of both of their careers. And it's funny enough, they share that disappointment here on the list. Going to be the very first D ranking here. So now all of the spots on the tier list have been filled. So we have one for every row. Interesting enough. Let's see. Let's see. Hang in there, dude. I think I got the dreaded COVID. Oh man, that's horrible. Feel better. The big reason I'm doing this tonight is my parents unfortunately have COVID. So I had to go away for the weekend. So now I'm basically on an impromptu vacation where, I really have nothing to do that I wasn't planned for. So because they're sick, I can't be around them. So I'm just kind of on my own tonight. And I decided, what the hell? Why not just be creative and let my creative juices flow and do this, and that's basically why I did this. Martin Luther King was shot at the time Night was released. Yeah, no. So what happened was they heard about the assassination like the last day of filming when they were driving back to edit the film together. It's so fucking crazy how it all went down. I like to call it two rolling eyes. Yeah, it's a fucking missed opportunity, man. If you ever see the movie Shaun of the Dead, it has the original music from Dawn, also one of the characters. Yes, I love that movie. I kind of blame the studio more for this movie's failure. I don't know, man. I kind of think, man, that this is the biggest problem, and diehard horror fans will hate me for saying this. The biggest fucking problem is that they went with Poe. Like, neither one of these guys said Edgar Allan Poe to me. Neither one. Stuart Gordon says Edgar Allan Poe. I would have loved to have seen what Stuart Gordon would have done because, of course, Stuart Gordon made a career on adapting H.P. Lovecraft works. Why not give it to Stuart Gordon? And of course, Masters of Horror comes around, and he did the Black Cat segment on there with Jeffrey Combs, and he did a much better job than Argento. I don't think Romero or Argento say Edgar Allan Poe. It's very similar to Rob Zombie didn't say Halloween. Rob Zombie said Texas Chainsaw Massacre, not Halloween. These two guys didn't say Edgar Allan Poe. That is the problem for me. I think Argento just went full Argento with a story that didn't lend itself to being an Argento story. I really think that was the problem. And Romero's, it's very somber and slow, and it does feel like a zombie movie, but a very boring one at that. I don't know. I don't really care for either segment. To me, it's the biggest missed opportunity of both those guys' careers. It's a shame. Two Evil Eyes is at best watchable. Yeah, I don't even know if it's watchable, man. It's not a movie, and at worst, a disappointment. Yeah, to me, it's at worst. I much prefer Argento's other American film, Trauma, and Romero's next film, The Dark Half. Yes, both of them, and funny enough, in 1993 would bounce back huge. I like Trauma. I like The Dark Half. To me, they both redeem themselves. I just think for those two names, like you think about it, right? Think about anything, sports, superheroes, whatever. Like superheroes, you think, Spider-Man and Superman, or Superman and Batman, or, you think the two best, whoever your two favorite are, they finally come together, and it's nothing, it's just, it wasn't what it should have been. It's such a shame because of that. Like, you have to expect the world from the best in the world. And unfortunately, they gave something lackluster. Hope everyone is feeling better soon. Yeah, no, I hope so too. I hope so too. So there is good news. They're both feeling fine. What happened was, when I got COVID around a year ago, I got like deathly ill. I had a pulmonary embolism. I was in intensive care for 2 weeks. I mean, I was in really fucking bad shape. So I think their whole idea is, let's fucking not get our son sick and, get him out of the house. So that's why I'm kind of on this vacation. That's why I don't have the camera on me. I'm in this fucking shady fucking room. Like, it's not very presentable. So that's why I'm doing this ranking list on a screen. And also, people probably, impromptu on a Saturday night. It wasn't scheduled. Yeah, no, it was kind of just one of these things that just sort of happened. But it's just kind of what I went with here. So, weird that I'm doing this, but I'm having a fun time. I'm hoping you guys are too. Let's see, back to here. Prayers for your parents. Thank you so much. From what I heard, I talked to my mom and dad today. They're both doing fine right now. I like Romero's story in Two Evil Eyes, but Argento's story kind of falls apart. I would agree. Romero's is the better of the two, but neither of them are good. Lovecraft and Poe, give it to Stuart Gordon for sure. Exactly. No, like I really don't think Argento said Poe at all. Like, not at all. Like, I don't see it at all. Like, Argento adapting Clive Barker? Sure, that would have worked. Sexuality, visuals, fucked up psychology, the sadomasochistic vibes. Argento would say Clive Barker a lot more than he would say Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe is more gothic feeling. Argento's not gothic hard. It's just not. It's just odd. It was an odd choice to me. I'm Leicester. From what I can see, I tend to agree with your rankings, dude. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I'm a big Romero fan, And I don't know. I've been meaning to do this for the longest time, and the circumstances of the weekend, kind of called for this. And prayers for you. Absolutely, Wes. Feel better, man. I hope you feel better. Yo, Stuart Gordon's Black Cat episode for Masters of Horror is underrated. I agree. I think it's much better than the Argento segment we get here, man. It really, really is. It's one of the best episodes of season 2. I love Jeffrey Combs in it. He steals it. I don't like Argento's Dracula, Giant Grasshopper. Come on. Oh, the giant praying mantis, you mean? Oh, what a piece of shit movie. If you ever watched the original Assault on Precinct 13, arguably my favorite Carpenter film, I'll say that right here. It pays homage to the original Night of the Living Dead, where instead of having people trapped in a house while fighting off zombies. And it also, the old school Immigrant song from, of course, Led Zeppelin, that's what the score is from. Instead of the bum ba da da bum ba da da, Assault on Precinct 13 is bum ba 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 bum bum ba 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 bum bum ba 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 bum bum ba 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 bum. So he played tribute to it there, with that. So I always loved that movie for that reason. I mean, I just absolutely love, Assault on Precinct 13. You'll always forget about Argento's Dracula. I buried it on the show a few weeks ago, Shawn, where I talked about when good directors go bad. And I discussed the 5 worst movies from the 5 greatest directors. That was a very fun show. Romero was featured on that as well. LL, thanks God. Absolutely. You had people trapped in a police station fighting off gang members. Absolutely. I love that film. I always thought Argento should have directed an Elm Street movie in the 80s. That would have been really cool because his style would have called for it. Like, if you watch Inferno, the fucking colors used in Inferno are just absolutely gorgeous to look at. And he would have called perfectly to make a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Of course, he was in Italy at the time. Elm Street was a product of American Hollywood, slasher movies. So that marriage never happened, but it would have been perfect because Argento, again, he would have said Elm Street much more like an Edgar Allan fucking Poe movie. So I digress. But moving on here into the year 1993, this is his, I want to say, was this his second collaboration with Stephen King? I believe so. This is The Dark Half. Yes, starring Timothy Hutton. I think this is a bounce back for Romero. I like this slightly more than Monkey Shines, and I like it a lot more than Two Evil Eyes. Now, again, though, this is a movie where I watch it and I like it. Don't get me wrong. But again, I don't know if it's a great movie. It's not. It's solid. It's decent. But again, sort of around the mid B or C mark for me. It basically tells the story of Timothy Hutton's character. And, he's a writer. And I think his name is Thad Beaumont. And he has this crazy horrible thing happened to him as a child where he sees all these crows, and they have this great surgery scene where there's this eyeball in his brain, and it's really fucking effectively done with special makeup effects. And basically these people in the hospital come to realize that he, had this twin brother that was in his brain, and they try to cut the brother out, but that is his dark half. And years later, there is an event that kind of suppresses his past, and the dark half of himself comes out and starts killing people and ruining his life. Very interesting movie on paper, and a movie that I quite like. I really do enjoy The Dark Half. I think it's a damn good movie. It's just not a great movie. That's kind of where I'm at with this one. Now, it has good special makeup effects. It has a good style from Romero. I like especially how he shoots the sequences with the evil half, the evil twin, and he's just being maniacal and all these evil laughs. Timothy Hutton does a good job as the dual role. It very much falls apart at the end. To me, the last third of it falls apart. It becomes a little too much. Maybe a little bit long, maybe a little bit drawn out towards the end, where the dark half takes his family hostage and he has to save them. And I get it. It's in a lot of ways, it reminds me of another Stephen King movie called Sometimes They Come Back, which I love. And it's another really good actor in Tim Matheson. And of course, another good horror director in Tom McLaughlin that directed that. And I don't know, to me, both those movies are really good first 2/3, and they both sort of fall apart towards the last act. They're just a little bit over long. Trim 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes out of it, and I think you have a perfect movie. I really do. But The Dark Half, for me, it's one of those movies that I think it's good. It's a movie I do not go back and rewatch very much. I know the Blu-ray goes for fucking guap, so you have to mortgage your house if you want to get the Blu-ray of this now. I recommend, I believe it's on HBO Max if you're a streamer. I'm a physical media collector, so I hate that shit. But if you want to see the movie, if you haven't seen the movie, if you want to see the movie because you haven't seen it in a while, it is on HBO Max for free. So, I mean, that is what it is. To me, it's either a very high C plus or like a B minus, maybe even a B. Although I would say I like it more than Monkey Shines, which I gave like a B minus. So I would say a B, a solid B for The Dark Half. Nothing great, a good movie, a bounce back movie, but again, nothing great. And it's unfortunate that after this movie, Romero went on like a big 7-year hiatus. And this was the last thing he would direct in the 1990s, where horror really took a big turn around the time of 1996, where Scream came out and you had the whole neo slasher movement. And then, of course, in 1999, the Blair Witch Project came out, where horror was scary again and taken seriously again. And then, of course, all the J horror that was coming out, whether it be Ringu, whether it be Ju-on the Curse, Ju-on the Grudge, whether it be One Missed Call, all of these J horror films that really made the genre scary again. And it really helped the genre grow its balls back, whereas films like Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legend had taken over and being kind of meta and self-aware and poking fun with parodying the genre. You know, Romero kind of, I think, got lost in the shuffle of that 7-year period. And the result of that is the film from 2000 that he made here. This is Bruiser from the year 2000. This has got to be, next to Night Riders, as Aiden was saying, the most least talked about Romero film. And I believe to this day, there is not a Blu-ray of it out. I believe you can only get the very cheap DVD, which I have in my collection back at home. And this is a movie I really like. I actually think of like the 3 movies he made on his own after Day of the Dead that weren't zombie movies, I think this is his best non-zombie movie after it. Like, I like it more than The Dark Half. I like it more than Monkey Shines. I think it's a very interesting fucking film that more people need to see. Now, basically tells the story of, oh geez, I want to get the actor's name right here because I always forget. He's a good actor. He was in the X-Men films too. I want to make sure. Jason Fleming. That's right. Jason Fleming. I'm sorry. I had to cheat and look that one up. Jason Fleming stars. He works for this company and he kind of gets lowballed and his wife cheats on him. And he's one of those guys that everything is going right for him except the important stuff. Like, he makes good money, but he doesn't have a woman to share it with. And he should be enjoying his life and should be getting credit for all these ideas, but other people are getting credit for his ideas. He's, betrayed by his best friend more than a few times. He's one of those guys that he has a good heart, but people take advantage of him because of it. And one day he wakes up and he has no face. He has this white blank face and basically goes fucking nuts and becomes a psychopath and starts killing those who did him wrong. And, I've heard people say this, and it's quite a funny statement, that this is like the poor man's version of American Psycho. And I understand why somebody would say that. I really do, because it has a similar vibe to it where it's like somebody who's, an everyday person becoming a psychopath. I mean, obviously you can't compare it to American Psycho because that movie's a masterpiece. And Christian Bale should have won an Oscar. And Mary Harron just did a wonderful job directing. I mean, American Psycho is a better movie than this. But I don't think that's to say that this movie right here isn't a great movie too. And to me, it's one of his most, if not his most underrated. It's up there. It's this, Martin, or Night Riders as his most underrated. But this is definitely his most underseen along with Night Riders. I really like this movie. It has an amazing score. And I really like the soundtrack and theme done by the Misfits. Descending Angel is the main song of this. He's a descending angel. And I always said this too, if I ever became a pro wrestler, my theme song as if I walked to the ring would be this song, Descending Angel. It's the most badass song to me in the history of song. Descending angel, oh, descending angel, stand by my side. Amazing song, man. Just absolutely epic. They did a music video that Romero would direct, I believe. And I don't know. I adore Bruiser. I think it's a really, really good movie. Very much deserving of a special edition Blu-ray and a movie that more people need to see. For me, it's either a very high B+ or a very low A-. I will go A- for now. I think it's one of his more underrated flicks. I like Bruiser. Definitely deserves a special edition. Now let's go back to comments because I didn't pause for comments here. Let's see. I believe we were here. The Dark Half, only Stephen King could come up with that idea. The book is better than the movie, in my opinion. Yeah, it probably is. I haven't read the book ever, but I would take your word for it. Dark Half is one of those movies that's better than the book, which is rare. Okay, so a movie that's better than the book. Okay, interesting, man. You're welcome, West. LOL, just my opinion. I know I'm not alone. Oh, totally. Malignant is a much better version of The Dark Half. Yeah, it's definitely a more fun version of The Dark Half. The Dark Half, don't get me wrong, it's a good movie. It's just like, I don't know. It's a little bit drawn out. It's a little bit overlong. I don't know. It's just, I wish it was slightly better than it was. In the book, it's the author's pen name that comes to life. I don't remember if it's that in the movie. I haven't seen it in years. It's, I believe that is the case in the film too, or at least it kind of hinted at that. You get the Eureka Blu-ray for Dark Half around $22. Okay, that might be worth it. That much, very much be worth it. Is that region free? I feel like you would know. You're a big physical media collector. Romero couldn't get anything funded after Dark Half, which is a damn shame, but I enjoyed Bruiser. Yeah, no, absolutely. The Insane One is in the house. Welcome, Insane One. Hope all's well. Shawn Digital. Have a good night, everyone. Okay, Shawn checked out. Okay, I'm not sure if anyone else knows the answer to my question, if the Eureka Blue is Region 2 or not. But have a nice night, my friend. Thanks for joining. Soundtrack to Bruiser is amazing. Completely agree with you. Speaking of Mary Harron, have you seen her I Shot Andy Warhol true story good film? Yes, I have, and I very much liked it. I love Mary Harron. I think she's very underrated. She also did an episode for that show Fear Itself, which was a very short-lived series, but I really remember liking. Cool. Night Shawn, bye Shawn. Master of Fears here, zombies. Yeah, no, we're getting to the last trilogy of Romero's work here. Of course, the first one here from the year 2005. This is George A. Romero's Land of the Dead. Now, basically what happened was, I was explaining before, how you had that 7-year period where Romero kind of was lost in the shuffle. Would it be the J-horror movement or the neo-slasher movement or all these movies that kind of changed horror from 1996 to 1999. Then in 2003, in my opinion, the piece of shit Texas Chainsaw remake came out, and that started the remake movement. Thus inspired them to remake Dawn of the Dead, and thus you had a little movie, comedy called Shaun of the Dead. And both of the success of Shaun of the Dead and Dawn of the Dead remake kind of inspired Hollywood to give Romero a giant budget and be like, hey, do you want to make the epic Ben-Hur zombie movies now? We'll let you do it. We'll give you the biggest budget you had to work with date. You can get name actors. You can really go for this. And Romero said, okay, I'll do it. Unfortunately, though, man, he made a disappointment for me. I never truly cared for Land of the Dead. Is it the worst movie in the world? No. But it's not anywhere near the first three. It's just not. And I don't even think it's half as good as any of the original three movies. The biggest problem is the cast. It really is. I mean, in a world where you had Night of the Living Dead with all these people that weren't even actors, and in Dawn of the Dead where you had half of your cast was hired from a diner, they gave great performances. Day of the Dead, most of them were stage actors from Pittsburgh, whether it be, like I said, John Amplis or Joe Pilato, guys that worked in the Pittsburgh area. Here you have guys like Simon Baker, who just has no emotion as the lead, just no charisma to him. He has the personality of a piece of fucking holy toast. Just boring. And, you have John Leguizamo, who's trying to be the badass of the group, and his name is Cholo, and I'm going to blow you out of your fucking castle. John Leguizamo didn't work here at all. It just was a bad casting. I really don't like him in the role at all. I really think you could have got somebody better for both those roles. You have actors I do like. You have Robert Joy, who plays like the best friend of the lead. I like him. Of course, people remember him from the Hills Have Eyes remake. I like Robert Joy a lot. I think he's good enough. You also have, I believe, and Robert Joy is also in, I believe, The Dark Half. I think he was in The Dark Half as well. So those two collaborated again. Asia Argento is in this, looking beautiful, perhaps the best looking person in the movie and the person that can keep you watching the movie. Just gorgeous around this time. It's so cool that she got to work with her father's best friend. That's really cool. And Asia is looking great in the film. I wish her character was the lead, honestly, because, Aja's the lead in Trauma. Aja's the lead in Stendhal Syndrome, gives the best performance of her career. Aja should have probably been the lead here. I really like Asia Argento, and she could carry a film. She would have been better as the lead than Simon Baker was, in my opinion. And Simon Baker does not do half as good as a Ken Foree does, or a Dwayne Jones, or Laurie Cardell as the leads of these movies. He just doesn't do a good job. This is also the first time Romero would really use CGI in a zombie movie, and it shows. It's some okay gore, okay special effects, but nothing great, and it would only get worse with the CGI effects from here. You have the whole story where Dennis Hopper is a part of this like building for rich people, and everybody's trying to get in. It's like a gated off community for the rich, and this is another big classism statement for Romero. He was trying to discuss the rich versus the poor, and how the rich are scum and the poor have to fend for themselves. I get it. This is also a movie where the zombies feel very much over smart. Like you have the Big Daddy zombie played by Eugene Clark. He does a good job, but to me, it's too much. Like the zombies are almost too smart in this movie for their own good. Like they know to walk across the water and they know to use power tools and things like that. Like to me, Day of the Dead left it where it was. Like Bub was taught to do all these things and was shooting guns and things like that at the end, but that was just Bub. Like that made Bub special. It's just like like they're all fucking OP. Like I always did not like that, man. And like I don't know, it really it has its moments, it does, but it's not by any means as good as his other films. Like it's just not as good as Night, Dawn, or Day. It's just not. But with that being said, it's not the biggest piece of shit. It's not a tragedy. It also just doesn't fit in with the movies at that time because it doesn't have that same energy. You know, Romero's films don't tend to have like crazy fast-paced energies to them. Most of them you have to sit and wait, you know, and let them play out. Dawn of the Dead remake, it's a very fast-paced, up-tempo movie. And this movie, compared to that, it does feel rather slow. And I don't know, that's another problem I have from it. Another problem, the setting. This is very Canadian film. And I don't mean any disrespect to any of my Canadian viewers, but he had shot these zombie films, at least his first three, in Pittsburgh. And they all have that homemade feel to them. Even the Night of the Living Dead 1990 remake that Savini directed, Romero produced and wrote, has that Pittsburgh homemade feel to them. This film does not have that. It feels very fucking Canadian. It does. And I don't, like I said, I do not mean that as a knock to any Canadian people or Canadian film. It's just a change in pace as to what those three films were made from and what made them special. That homemade feel is gone here. That hurts the film. I don't know. It's just there's so many negatives here for me that it's hard to really put the film over. It's not terrible, but it's really not that great either. I think it's the most disappointing of the 6 Dead movies. Is it the worst? I don't know. Part of me wants to say it is. You know, it's this or Survival for the worst. But I don't know. For me, this is a movie that it always fell short to me. It always just left something to be desired. And Land of the Dead for me is like a C-, man. It's just not that good of a film. I like I said, there are some things like the zombies popping out of the water, paying tribute to Carnival of Souls, which is, you know, the film that made Romero, you know, want to make Night of the Living Dead, that ghoul, gothic, creepy atmosphere of Herc Harvey's film from 1962. They pay homage to that when the zombies are walking out of the water from their heads up. Very creepy scene. But I don't know. The characters in this do nothing for me. The zombies do nothing for me. The CGI is poor in the film. The story grows on me a little bit watching it back years later. Like the whole point is, you know, you have to let them live their life. We have to live ours. That's the whole kind of point at the end. I don't know. It's fine. It's harmless, but it's not fucking that good. It's overrated, man. People that like this movie, I just don't see the love for it. I don't. Like people will tell you this is the best one of the last trilogy. I don't agree with that. I would probably say the next one, but let's go back in the comments here. Let's see. I don't know where we were. Holy shit. I don't know where the hell we were, man. Wow, we had a lot of comments here. A bunch of more people joined. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find the fucking where we were last. I think we were here. George gave me my favorite monsters, zombies. He always has a special place in my heart. Right, I totally agree with that. I don't think Land of the Dead wasn't that bad. I liked how the zombies go underwater. Okay. Oh, yeah, John Steele's in the house. Dark Half from Eureka looks like it's a Region 2. I would think so. Yeah, it doesn't say the price is in pounds or euros, so it's a rating of 18 plus on it. Yeah, that means it's Region 2 for sure. And same one, nice loss so far, sir. Nice list so far. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. John Steele's in here. Let's go. That cast is hot garbage in my humble opinion. You're spot on. Thank you. No, thank you so much. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, to me, man, the whole time, his entire career, he made a lot out of nothing. And when you finally gave him the biggest budget, I don't know if he knew what to do with it. I really don't. I think it was too big for his own good. I think the brilliance of George Romero was the blessing of no money in a lot of ways, you know? And that's why I love Day of the Dead so much. Here, he got the budget, and I don't know, it just doesn't, I don't think it's half the film Day of the Dead is. So it is what it is. I really like Land of the Dead, but I understand it's nowhere near Romero's best. So I would agree with that. Land of the Dead feels more like a John Carpenter film than a Romero film. Like, seriously, this feels like Carpenter would have made. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this feels Carpenter to me at all, man. I'm not sure. Land of the Dead is a guilty pleasure of mine. I watch with nostalgia. Okay, the zombies have to go next level, like going underwater. Land of the Dead, Ghosts of Mars have characters named Big Daddy, and one of them, zombie. Hell yeah. And fight sharks. Yeah, absolutely. Thought that you're right. LMAO. Let's go back down here. When you mentioned TCM, I do like the R. Lee Ermey film. I hate the TCM remake. We just talked about it not 2 days ago on the show, and I buried it. AJ went to bat for it. I buried it. He moved to Canada, I think, because of the cost reasons. Yeah, no, it's cheaper to make films in Canada. I just think it lost its luster for his films for me. Classic film. Okay, I like Canadian bacon. I love Canadian bacon. I think you're talking about the food, right? Or are you talking about the John Candy movie? I'm not sure. I like the original TCM as well. Original TCM's the best. I think Romero must have been a fan of Ghost of Mars. Oh, geez, I don't know. I feel like you're forcing that Carpenter connection here. More money does not equate to a quality film. Exactly. And for Romero, I don't think it would. I just don't know if it was the right move, man. I don't. Both, LOL. Okay, both, for real, for real. Romero shot Land of the Dead on Panavision camera, the usual camera Carpenter used. Okay, you really want to. I still forgive you for not liking DCM remake. Thank you for forgiving me. No, I'm in the minority. People love that remake. I just am not one of them. To me, that original is untouchable. I just don't think you could touch the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't. But last two movies here. This one from the year 2007. This is Diary of the Dead. Yes, Diary of the Dead from 2007. Now, to me, of the last three Romero Dead films, this is the best one. This is a prequel in a lot of ways. It was shot on video because this is, of course, reflects the period of horror that the world was in at that point. Of course, Cloverfield was coming out in 2008. I believe January of 2008. You had the movie Wreck in I believe, was it Mexico? I believe it's a Spanish film, Wreck. You had Quarantine, which was the American remake. Shot on video films were big at the time, and so they wanted Romero, hey, do a zombie film that's shot on video. Okay. A lot of people hate the movie because of its style, because it's shot on video. I don't look at it that way at all. I really quite like this movie. It throws back to the night, the original night where the dead start coming back to life. And, the characters here, they are no name actors, so it is a little bit different from Land. It feels lower budget. I like that. Now, the actors, again, aren't very great. Like the lead girl, I hate her. I think she's terrible. You have this priest character, he's a professor character, and he's talking like a priest, like very holier than now, and like, oh, I like the day better because at night, we can hide, and the day we cannot, hide our true selves. We can have to reveal who we truly are. All these things, and I don't know, it's quite lame. I find that character like very like preachy. I do think, though, that this one, it has a little bit more fun of a pace. It's a fun time waster movie. It's, like I said, it's by no means as good as the original trilogy, but I do like its message on technology really overrunning us as a society. It's a movie that I felt was slightly ahead of its time in that vein because of the world we live in now, where these kids, they grow up and they're using iPads instead of playing outside, and, how technology has really consumed our country and society as a whole. I really think the message here, it is beating you over the head with it, don't get me wrong, but it's a right message and it was ahead of its time message. So I think this movie now has kind of aged fairly well, I would say. At the time, everybody hated it. Oh, it's generic. Oh, it's forced shot on video. X, Y, and Z. People had reasons to hate this. I think it's an okay movie. I like the finale in the mansion, in Ridley's mansion, where all hell breaks loose and all of them start getting attacked. And the fact that these characters are making a zombie movie and they talk about some meta shit. I like this movie. I think this is a fine movie. It has its moments. To me, the last good Dead movie that there was. And another movie that I would say is around a B+. I like Diary of the Dead. It's one of those movies of the last three I watch it the most. And I don't know. It's one of those I kind of wish more people liked it, but it seems to be the most hated of the last three. So I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority on that. But I sort of enjoy the film for what it is. So here we will go back to comments now. And let's see. Found footage films give me cancer. Exactly. Yeah, a lot of people hate the idea. I like Diary. I do too. I quite like Diary. Romero tried to address certain issues: dead films, Night, Vietnam, civil rights, dawn, consumerism, day, military, industrial complex, Diary, internet. Yes, this one definitely feels like it has that same message, like a classic Romero film would have for me. Like I totally feel that way about it. I do like the majority of the death scenes. Yeah, no, the death scenes are fun in this. Granted, there's a lot of CGI, but at least they had fun with it. Like, I don't know. I like this movie. To me, it's the last really good one of those of the dead movies for sure. But rounding things out tonight, 2009's Survival of the Dead. I would say this is arguably Romero's worst film. It's this, There's Always Vanilla, or Land of the Dead for me. Two Evil Eyes, I can't fully count. It's a worse movie than that. Like, it's a worse movie than Land of the Dead, but it's not fully his film because Argento had a piece of it. It's basically like an hour Romero film, hour, Argento film. So it's one of those where I don't know if I can give full credit to being the worst, if you will, because it wasn't fully his film. But I will say this: Survival of the Dead is just, I don't like it tonally. It's very much trying much more for laughs. It has the weakest characters in any Romero film next to Land of the Dead. I don't like the characters in it at all. The lead, Alan Van Sprang, is not good. The kid they pick up, who is, I believe, in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies, he's not very good. I don't know, man. This movie just, the CGI is awful in it. The fucking, like, over-the-top Irishness in it. It's a movie that takes place in Delaware, but everybody's Irish. The look of the film is awful. Like, it looks like a fucking Disney Channel original movie from 1998. Like, it looks like fucking Under Wraps or something. Like, it has a shitty look to it. It looks like a Lifetime original movie or something. Like, it's an ugly looking film. And I don't know, man, like this, it's just such a letdown that this was the last movie of his career. Now, it does have the whole, Hatfields versus the McCoys thing going on, where it's the O'Flynn's and the Muldoons, where the O'Flynn's want to kill all the zombies, the Muldoons want to salvage the zombies. That's kind of a recurring theme in Day of the Dead, where it's the scientists want to find a way to make them behave, whereas the crazy military, they want to kill them all. You already kind of tackled that, Romero. So I don't know, that felt rather repetitious here. And I don't know, this movie, it leaves a lot to be desired for me, man. Like, I don't really care for this movie that much. I would say that Survival of the Dead is close to an F or a D. I don't know, man. It's I guess it's a D minus, man. It's probably a D minus. I can slightly give it the pass, but it's not a good film by any means, man. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I just reviewed it in full on the When Good Directors Go Bad episode. I went full in depth and kind of made fun of it because it sounded like the lead guy was Brett the Hitman Hart doing commentary on it. Kind of funny. I don't know. It's kind of something I just thought was funny about the film, but I don't know. For me, very disappointing to the end of Romero's legendary career. Let's see. I almost didn't survive Survival of the Dead. Yeah, no. Romero was a college dropout, and in that day you could drop out of college and do good. You're not missing with much, man. Hatfields versus the McCoys. It is. It kind of is. Nothing wrong with Romero being a college dropout. Nothing wrong at all. Hey, man, look at it. Hey, if I could have a career this successful, I wish I was a college dropout too. But yeah, no, this is George Romero ranked and full. So of course the top 5 would be, I would say in this order: Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Martin, Creepshow, Night of the Living Dead. That's like my top 5 in that order. Then I would say Bruiser, Night Riders, the 2 most underrated, come in at an A. Crazies, Monkey Shines, Dark Half, Diary of the Dead, all solid B+ or B level movies to me. Season of the Witch, an experimental film, middle of the road. Land of the Dead, big disappointment. Two Evil Eyes, the biggest disappointment. Survival of the Dead, a sad swan song. And then There's Always Vanilla, the shitty experimental romantic drama he did, coming in at an F, the only F of the show. But I enjoyed doing this. I thought this was fun. Again, this is very impromptu stream, so I'm sorry if I rambled or whatever. If I went on rather long, I do apologize. It's just one of those things that, I figured I'd get some creativity in here and kind of kill some time with this on a Saturday night that I can't go out and do anything. So I don't know. I figured this would be a fun thing to do. Let's see. We can all get along as long, just teach them to eat horses. That's the fucking the solution, but nobody finds out because of all the disagreements, funny enough. In my humble opinion, save your time and watch a quick review, friend. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Thank you for taking the time to give us this great stream. Thank you so much, Insane One. I appreciate that, man. You may rant, you never ramble. Oh, well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. I felt that this was sort of a ramble because it was so impromptu, but I'm happy that you guys enjoyed. So everybody, if you want to let me know your Romero rankings down below in the comments, if you want to go from all of his films in order, if you want to rank them, as how I did it here, feel free, please do. But we will definitely catch you next time on the Graveyard. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend and a safe Saturday night. Nice stream. Thank you so much, Cooper Lover. You were here for the whole time, so thank you. I appreciate it. So was Neon Black Reviews. Thank you both. I really appreciate you guys spending the time. It was a fun stream. Everybody have a wonderful, safe, happy, healthy weekend. And if I don't know if I am the eyesore still here, but feel better, man. I hope you feel better. Everybody stay COVID free and stay safe, stay healthy. We will catch you next time, only on the Graveyard. Too sweet, peace. Good night, everybody.